maybe you should try this. And I never know what he's going to try. I just throw him ideas and lobby him ideas. We're just shooting. And he goes, okay, I got an idea for a speech. And I'm like, okay. And then we start talking about everything else, about family and business. And so I'm excited to hear his speech today. I have no idea what the title is. I think we're going to be surprised. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Jose Luis Perez.
Hello and welcome to the T podcast. This podcast, the goal of this show is to introduce people and ideas to help execute your dream. That's the whole point of this podcast. I want to make it fun. Now, the guest that we have today is a real life superhero. She has traveled the world, climbed the tallest mountains in the world. Literally. She's a skydiver. Gives back to her community, not only here, but abroad. She's a best-selling author. 2 books, right? Children's book and a self-help book. She's a DTM Toastmaster. She is one of us, the Rao Toastmaster. She is an entrepreneur and a coach. And I want to welcome up here Berta Medina as my guest.
Shut up. No way. Thank you. This is awesome. What, are we sitting?
We're sitting. This is going to be something different. I have so many questions to ask you, and we're doing this in a live audience, which is amazing. I want to first start with your first book. We have a superstar, the person that this book was written for is here.
Yes.
What a treat. Can you tell me a little bit about this adventure? We only have 10 minutes, so we'll have to scoot through it because I have so many questions for you.
Sure. So this book came about from the adventure that I did. I was asked to be on a mission trip where part of the fundraising efforts to raise money to help Maasai children living in poverty entailed climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. So I was 47, postmenopausal grandma at the time, born and raised in Miami, never climbed the mountain in my life. And it's like, okay, let's start with Kili.
Yeah, the hardest mountain to climb.
Yeah,
right?
so it was. So we were on the mountain 7 days, sleeping in tents with no showers. And when I came back, I put my notes together. My son said, listen, you've got a book here. I wrote a book and donated all the proceeds to the organization that I traveled with. But our dream for me and my children was to write a children's book. So we did it as if Chloe, who happens to be here today, had done my climb for Sippy, the little boy, and that's why it's called Chloe Climbs for Sippy.
The funny thing is we didn't even plan that out.
No, she got stuck with me today.
That's awesome. It's awesome. Now let's go with the other book. And you see, like I said, all you do is give back. And that's amazing. And that's why I want to come into your other book, because it's the self-help book, which I'm writing keywords the whole time I'm reading the book. I'm writing things down. I'm like, man, I can't even keep up with this book because it's so interesting. And the way you tell the story is just amazing how you do that. And the main key word that I always see is comfort zone. And that actually is what made me think, wow, this is why she skydives. This is why she takes on that mountain and all the other mountains in Colorado and everything else that you do. Tell me what motivates you to get out of your comfort zone. What is that you do?
I think, well, my biggest motivation is that little girl right there. She's 10 now. I had a really amazing grandmother who I lost when I was 17. She died very young. But even 37 years later, I still want to live up to what her expectations would be of me. So I always wanted to be that kind of grandma. And I think that a comfort zone is a graveyard of potential and hope. I think that's where low expectations and mediocrity thrive. I think that that's where all dreams go to die. And no life worth living can be lived within the confines of a comfort zone. So I just said, I gotta break out. It was very traditional, Cuban Catholic, we're raised on café con leche and guilt. So, I wanted more for my kids. I wanted more for them not doing it the traditional way, the thinking that we had to be in this box. And the only way I could show them that was to do it myself. So
Yeah, so lead by example.
lead by example, because that's the only thing that works with kids.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that grave site, or I think of a grave site when you're talking about that, and I think of Les Brown, and he always says that the biggest dreamers are all in that grave site.
Yeah.
Because they're the dreams that were never fulfilled because they never did anything about it.
Yeah.
And we're alive, and we should get inspired to do something positive and give back. And the next word that I was going to ask you about is gratitude. I know that that's really big for you.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about gratitude and how you put that into everyday life.
I think gratitude is the biggest paradigm shift creator that we have, and a lot of us don't exercise it enough. We tend to focus, because that's how society programs us, to focus on what's wrong, to focus on what's going poorly, to focus on what needs to be fixed, and we have so much to be grateful for. So I tell everybody, if you're not motivated, if there's something that you feel stuck, just start writing down 5 things every night that you're grateful for. And I got into the habit of, even in the morning, being grateful for things that I wanted to happen. Like, I'm grateful to God for what is coming. I'm grateful to God for whatever projects I'm working on that day in advance. And by the end of the day, I'm going to be grateful because it happened. But I think gratitude is the greatest power tool that we have, and a lot of us are just not using it. So I encourage everybody to.
I started a gratitude journal, and when I started writing it, I kind of fell into that thing that I kept writing the same things over and over and over, and I'm thinking, how do I get out of this? And you gave me a good example of, instead of writing just what you're grateful for that's already happened, be grateful for things that are gonna happen and things that you want to happen, and put it out in the universe. That's the universe will pay you back if you're grateful and you start talking about it and put it in your atmosphere. To see.
You put it in.
So it's great. Tell me a little bit about climbing those mountains, because you've climbed these mountains, and the one in your book you mentioned one in, I think it was Princeton, Mount Princeton, and you were about to quit.
Yeah.
You said, I can't quit. You know, tell me that story, how you got motivated to get to the top of the mountain and not go back with the other people coming down.
So Princeton was a bitch. Okay, there are collegiate 14ers. They call them 14ers. Those are mountains that are higher than 14,000 feet in Colorado. And Princeton, it's like they picked it, and it was our reunion climb a year after we did Kili. And about half of the people that met in Kili went and did the climb. The whole thing is rock. Like, you look at it, and I'm like, when do the rocks end? And the guy's like, yeah, it's gonna end. And it doesn't. It's just rock all the way. It took us 5 hours to get up, 5 hours to come down, because you had to be very careful. But it was there were people on that mountain that had climbed Kili and said, we'll take Kili any day over this mountain.
Wow.
And what happened was, I knew that I wasn't physically prepared. Okay, I mean, the altitude is an issue in Colorado. I mean, it's very different.
Yeah.
And during one of the breaks, they said, there are so many people on the mountain, they said, if you need to come down, you're gonna have to join another group that's coming down, but the mountain was full that day. So I said, it's gonna be easy peasy. So about 2.5 hours in, I get to the point and I was done. My legs were done, my quads were crying, and I was done. So we sit down for a break, and I'm like, this is it. I'm gonna break it to them, and I'm gonna tell them, listen, there's a group coming down, I'm gonna be gone. And all of a sudden, I get a text from my daughter, and she had a picture of her and Chloe. And she said, send us a picture when you get up there. And I was like, and I said, listen, que pena.
Embarcate. You're like, you gotta do it now.
I'm done. But the craziest thing was that it was all in my mind. It was the attitude that I wasn't going to be able to keep going. And that breath, it's almost like nothing hurt. I kept going. I was breezing my way to the top, and I was like, that's how, and I said, I cannot let them down. I have to send them that picture from up there. And that was it. That was the switch. So that's why I say the why of why we do things is
Right, and that,
Yeah.
and I didn't get to the name of the book, but yeah, it's, and I made you that
love
hat
this.
because
This is so beautiful.
I wanted to give something back to you since you're always giving back.
I love that. Thank you, T.
But the mind is such an incredible thing that you could tell your mind, hey, I don't hurt anymore. My legs don't hurt. I'm ready to go. Let's go. And you got that motivation. So it's so crazy how you could get motivated all of a sudden, you know, from just somebody telling you something, so you could change it
That's it.
just like this.
That's it.
And that's when you're reading all these books, you're like, wow, it's true. And you showed that it's possible.
It's possible. It's possible.
I'm going to give you one more question, and I know this is a big one because I know he meant a lot to you, and you've said speeches about your grandfather. How, you know, what did he teach you as to become such an amazing person, you know, and just tell us a little bit about him, you know, that
that.
inspired.
Yeah, thank you. And you know what's crazy is that when we're in it, you know, when we're being raised by these amazing humans, we take it for granted, right? We're not really embracing and sucking it dry, if you will. Thankfully, my grandfather lasted 97 years, so I had him well into my 40s, okay? And he was just all about family. He got to this country when he was 60. He was a retired police officer in Cuba, and he thought, well, that's it, I'm retired. And then he's faced with 4 fatherless children. You know, my father went back to Cuba when my mother was 5 months pregnant, and then I had 3 other cousins. We all grew up in the same house, and he's like, I've got to work. So he started working 3 jobs, and to support us, he supported the whole household. He put us all through college, bought us all our first cars.
Now I know how you got to do all these amazing things, because your grandfather is the one that instilled that in you,
the work
and
ethic,
it brought it all together. And I'm going to close with that.
Yeah.
Is that you just having that support system and such an amazing family. Now I know why you've turned out how you turned out.
Huge.
You know,
Thank you.
huge and
Thank you.
incredible. And you're beautiful, and thank you for being on the
Thank
show.
you. Thank you, T,
Thank
for
you
having
all
me.
for listening to this amazing
Thank you
show.
for this.
And to the next one, bye. Thank you.
Thank you, T. Oh, I love it.
We'll have a 1 minute of silence, but I felt like I got to listen to 2 great speeches in one.